This episode of the Cult Popture podcast was brought to you by our Patreon. If you want to tell us which films we should watch, get up to 2 extra exclusive podcasts a month, give us something to talk about in the post-credit scenes at the end of each episode, or even contribute to the discussion in the episode itself, then please consider joining the cult and donating at www.patreon.com/cultpopture. Unique New York. What do you have any fun?
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
What's that from?
That's from Anchorman.
Okay. I said unique New York, and I was like, I wish I thought of a more unique. There you go, non-cliche. We need a more unique New York anyway, outside of vocal exercises.
Well, because New York isn't particularly unique anyway, because it's presumably quite similar to York.
It's presumably very similar to York, only newer. Do you have ever done? Have you ever thrown out like a red lorry, yellow lorry?
Oh, I've dabbled.
Yeah, I think that one's hard because we don't really say lorry in New Zealand.
Yeah, if it was like red walker, yellow walker.
Not as hard to say, but very culturally relevant. Welcome everybody to the Cult Popture podcast. My name is AJ, and I'm also joined by my best friend Richard. And what we do, we exist here in this coil where we do this podcast. I'm making it sound miserable. We for a long time now we've been doing this show called Film Franchise Fortnights, where
we're
watch
finally doing the franchise that people have been clamoring for.
Yes, so we watch a different film franchise every fortnight, and now we are continuing this year's tradition of diving into niche franchises with demographics you and I sit firmly outside of. And in a weird case, I feel like no one I've seen in our like fan community gives a shit about this movie. Yeah. Like we've got our meeting of the elders segment usually where we hear from the fans. I've not even included it this episode because just no one said anything.
Yeah.
So except for one person who was like, I haven't watched them. It's like, okay, we're probably not going to read that out. So yeah, this week on Film Franchise Fortnights, we're going to be covering the 5 Diary of a Wimpy Kid films, which is a franchise based on, get this, the 6th best-selling book series of all time, written by cartoonist Jeff Kinney, about a middle school student named Greg, which I reckon if I was born 2 to 3 years later, I would have been obsessed with this book series. I reckon I would have been all
this
about
is the
it.
Thing, yeah, we just missed, and the films as well, like,
yeah,
it feels like there's one element particularly that I feel like for some of my like younger workmates, would be made a quite impression on them.
Ah, yes. Well, I look forward to you interrupting what I'm saying to tell me what that is when it comes up. I missed the boat completely and had barely heard anything about these movies beyond the fact they existed until now. The first book came out in 2007, which is the first year I started high school, which means like it's literally like 6 months earlier I would have still been in what we call middle school when the first one. Don't we call intermediate middle school?
Oh, we don't call it middle school. But...
Sorry, what you guys in America call middle school,
yeah.
We call intermediate, which is where Greg is a middle schooler, presumably for eternity. He's been a middle schooler for about 15 years now. So the films we're discussing today include Diary of a Wimpy Kid in 2010, Roderick Rules in 2011, Dog Days in 2012, The Long Haul in 2017, and then an animated Disney Plus reboot from 2021, also called Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
It's worth mentioning the 2, 3, and 4 have Diary of a Wimpy Kid as the title with what you said as the subtitle.
As the subtitle, yep. And so we started with the Diary of a Wimpy Kid and we end with the Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Such is the poetry of life, often recorded in said diaries. So, the first film, Diary of a Wimpy Kid in 2010, this was directed by someone named Thor Freudenthal, which is maybe the coolest director name we've read out of this podcast. What do you think this has on Rotten Tomatoes? These all had theatrical releases except for the Disney Plus one, which is interesting because they kind of feel like straight to DVD movies, but with higher budgets. So what do you think this has on Rotten Tomatoes?
I would guess about 60, like fresh, but not quite, but only just.
It's only got 54% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that's a common, like the reception to these films. I was quite interested to discover as we went through them.
Yeah, I agree because I never. It was one of these things. I was aware of these, and like you said, we weren't in the right demographic, so I knew there was 5 of them. I knew there was 4, and then a live action one. I didn't know that the 4th one was an animated one, and then I didn't know that the 4th one was a new cast until we started watching this. But one thing that I was like, I have no idea if these films are good. I mean, the fact that I've never heard anyone talking about them is probably a hint. But
they're so American though.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? They're so American, and like. The books, just so the books, as I understand it, being the 6th most sold or best-selling series of all time, the books are revered. Like, the books are adored.
There's just so fucking many of them. Like, if you make that many books and sell one each, it's going to crack the top 10.
Yeah. So, can you tell us what Diary of a Wimpy Kid, based on the 2007 book, what the first film is about?
So, Greg Heffley is just starting middle school. He's got this best friend named Rowley who's like not as cool. He's not very cool. And Greg wants to be cool. And
he wants to be popular.
He wants to be a populator. Populator.
Don't we all?
Hey, pop you later. Anyway, he goes to middle school. It's his attempts to be cool, which all inadvertently make Rowley cooler.
And
then
Rowley, who's just the sweet, gentle guy that doesn't do anything wrong.
And Greg's just kind of whiny and gets himself into all these problems throughout the whole thing. But there's this narratively important piece of cheese, as you put it, which sits on the black top, and it's been there for God knows how long, and no one knows how it got there. And if you touch the cheese, you get what is known as the cheese touch, a viral sound on TikTok you may have heard. And the idea is just that it's one of these stupid rumors that kids have, and it's cooties essentially. And so you pass it on, and then this one kid got it and then moved away, and so the cheese touch was taken with him.
Vanquishing the cheese touch.
No one had the cheese touch in a long time, but I don't want to spoil it for you, but Rowley ends up eating the cheese, and then Greg takes the fall for him and admits to eating the cheese. There's also,
he's made to eat cheese by a group of teenage bullies.
Teenage bullies. Very, very just bad.
He doesn't just voluntarily eat the cheese.
No one would voluntarily eat the cheese. They do that's like the permanent cheese touch, the mega cheese touch. But anyway, so there's other sort of things. There's a whole cast of characters, bunch of silly characters at the school. He's got a zany family, his Zani family, I should say.
Of course,
because his dad's played by one of AJ's favorite actors, Steve Zahn.
I don't know about that.
And he's also got his older brother.
When did that start? I feel like
I was thinking about this. I have no idea where it came from that you like Steve Zahn.
I don't know if Steve Zahn is one of my favorite actors. It's more just he's like not a household name, but one that I remember and recognize. I think that's more what it is.
I'm gonna look search our messenger chat for.
I don't reckon you'll find the
inception of it. Yeah, I think the inception of it was in person.
Okay.
So
it's just an actor who I recognise. It'd be the same. It's like how you fail to recognise Scoot McNairy. This is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
I always recognise
cripplingly
Steve
aware of Steve Zahn. So I said I haven't seen Phineas and Fern one time, and you said Steve Zahn is in an episode.
Of course I would know that.
I said that Steve Zahn is pretty good in War for the Planet of the Apes. I referred to him as your favorite actor there. That was when I was watching it. And when I must have been watching Death Note, the live action one, I said, why do we need Shea Wiggum and Steve Zahn?
Well, speaking of Steve Zahn, this film and the next three in the series do star a number of film franchise Fortnights familiar faces, or FFFFFs, including Steve Zahn, who we have seen before. As you said, he played Bad Ape in War for the Planet of the Apes, where I believe we actually decided he should have been played by Mark Ruffalo. We've also got Rachel Harris, who plays Greg's mom. We've seen her before in The Hangover. She's the bitchy wife of what's-his-face. And she's also in Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb. The film also stars Zachary Gordon as Greg, the titular wimpy kid, who we've seen previously in Santa Buddies, The Legend of Santa Paws, and The Search for Santa Paws, where he voiced Puppy Paws and Paws, respectively, who I can't remember if those are the same character or not, or they're just very similarly named. He also appeared somewhere in National Treasure Book of Secrets, but probably most notably, he grew up to play the lead male love interest in American Pie Presents Girls' Rules, which is a film written into the DNA of cult popture. And the American Pie connection doesn't stop there, because Devin Bostick, who plays Roderick, who is Greg's older brother, who's like a rock star in a heavy metal band called Loaded Diaper, he played high school student number 4 in American Pie Presents The Naked Mile. And this feels somewhat appropriate, because this really is like the middle school version of American Pie.
Instead of fucking a pie, it's touching some cheese.
Like legit though, right? Like that is what, if you were going to take the events of American Pie and make them appropriate for middle schoolers, that's something you could do. Also, do you remember that Chloe Grace Moretz is in this movie?
Yeah, it's like an original character for the film as well, right?
Yep, not from the book. She plays a minor role, and I'm going to guess she bailed on the franchise because Kick-Ass came out the same year as this, and probably bumped her acting fee to outside what this entire movie
she's really this movie's Pixie Lot from Fred 1.
We've only seen her once before in film franchise Fortnights in Muppets Most Wanted, which is a film which quite often is the only film we've seen an actor before in. But yeah, what did you think of Diary of a Wimpy Kid?
It's average.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty unremarkable. Yeah, I mean, it's that thing of a character just kind of being a dick, kind of being annoying, and then getting off pretty scot-free. I will say one thing. So there's one of his attempts to become cool is to become the newspaper cartoonist, which ends out working out for Rowley.
Very well for Rowley, yeah.
When he makes he takes one of Greg's ideas and runs with it, and it's called Zoo Wee Mama. And so it'll be like, a pretty casual observation about something, or it doesn't go right, and then the last panel the character says Zooey Mama, and Rowley comes up to Greg and says like, Greg, I put you in the next Zooey Mama, and look, you get to say Zooey Mama. And I'm gonna be honest with you, AJ, I think Zooey Mama is fucking hilarious. That is so funny.
I'd heard the phrase before. Is it from this?
I guess, I don't know, but it's like, that is the best thing these films have to offer. It's so funny that just the idea of this comic, and that everyone gets behind it. The comic isn't actually referenced in 2 and 3, but they say Zooey Mama, like it's just it's just taken off. That's great.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I agree. I found Greg just so insufferable and mean. But I guess that's probably true to life, and I'm sure part of the reason I dislike it is because I see a lot of myself at that age in Greg. But I think as well, part of the problem here is that I wouldn't really call him wimpy. He's obnoxious.
It's a weird choice of adjective to base your franchise around.
Yeah, and it barely ever comes up as well. But the film started, and it's this kid narrating high school, and it's got shades of coming of age, and these are all like kind of things that I gravitate to a lot in film. And I was like, oh, I think I'm really gonna like this. And then he's like, so anyway, I'm starting first day of school, and you gotta make sure you're careful who you talk to or whatever. And then some kid's like, well, hey, Greg. And he doesn't recognize him. There's this whole bit about how the yearbook photos, like something happened during the summer. Yeah, this kid's like, hey, Greg. And he goes, hey, fella. And I was just like, what a rude thing to say.
Yeah.
And then I caught on to the fact of how bloody rude Greg is.
Diary of a bloody rude kid.
He's just a diary of a bloody rude kid. He is rude. He's just mean. He's just a dick. And, like, his priorities are out of whack. And I guess that, like, it's all fertile ground for a character arc, for a character, with these priorities to learn.
I will say it's not as bad in 2 and 3.
Agreed. Yeah.
And so that kind of allows me to forgive it a little bit in 1, that it is like you actually do have character growth.
Yeah, totally. But still, it's a story of a kid with a really kind and gentle friend who he just fucking hates because he's a good person.
Yeah.
So critical reception seemed to reflect what we were saying, with everyone saying Greg was, I saw one quote said he was unpleasant, which sounds like it's a departure from the books. Apparently the books don't have this problem, but I'll tell you what, I've seen the first book adapted twice, and I'm not sure it could be that much of a departure. Like, how much can
I'm
you
sure
change,
they're not
really?
like Diary of a Nice Young Man.
My favourite character was Chirag Gupta, who's the little Indian boy that delivers the TikTok sound of, good God, man, you almost got the cheese touch, which I first saw in a TikTok by Mitzi, the joke was like, when your boyfriend's getting handsy, but it's your time of the month. So it's like, good God, man, you almost got the cheese touch.
I've only ever really seen it as a girls referring to their unwashed privates.
What a legacy Diary of a Wimpy Kid leads.
And there's another TikTok sound from the second one, and I was like, I can't believe that there's 2 viral sounds from this franchise. But then at the same time, if there are 20-year-olds out there using TikTok, they probably grew up on this franchise.
And there almost definitely are 20-year-olds out there using TikTok.
I would put money on it. But that's the other thing that I wanted to... I mean, it's kind of I don't know how much more you have to say about the first one, because this is a segue into the second one a little bit.
I can... Do you want me to run through the last few notes?
Just sprint through it.
All right. Okay. There is an element of gross out comedy.
Close contact with someone who is COVID-19.
Oh, wow. You got the cheese touch in real
Oh my God, I got the cheese touch.
You okay? Do you need to stop recording?
Are you okay to continue recording with me?
Good God, man. It's worth saying for those that don't know, we're in different cities, so I am not now also cheese touched.
No, I think you've been cheese touched.
How great is, like, we often theme episodes, like we did an airplane episode as I was about to get on an airplane, and now we're doing the Cheese Touch franchise and you're in close contact to COVID-19.
So I was last exposed on Wednesday. So when did that have been? It was Wednesday, obviously. Well, what was it?
It's Friday night right now.
Yeah. I mean, I presume it was just at work then.
Okay.
Good God.
Did they not tell? It's just a mystery.
Yeah, like, so
you
literally
were a close contact.
Last exposed around Wednesday, 1st of June, 2 days ago. You have been in contact with someone who's tested positive for COVID-19. Bluetooth tracing has detected that you have been in contact with someone who has tested positive for COVID-19. Monitor your symptoms for 10 days. If symptoms develop, get a test, and if you stay home until you receive a negative test result. If you live with someone who has COVID-19, tap Find Out More and follow the instructions for household contacts.
Okay.
I've completed 0 of the last 14 days in my diary. No one does that shit anymore.
I flew to the other side of the world and back last week, and my highest risk of getting COVID has been coming back to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Anyway, There is an element of gross out comedy to these movies, which I think makes me uncomfortable because of how young everyone is. And we'll get more into this. We talk about it a few times. But I wonder if this movie was made now, if there would be as many scenes of shirtless 12-year-olds running around. Like they make them play shirts versus skins. And it's like, that's illegal. You can't do that in high school. But we'll get more. There's a few. I don't quite want to call it problematic corner, but certainly like
just gross corner,
gross corner, which we'll get to later on. So one of the things that this movie does is that it integrates the famous illustrations from the books, which are very simple stick figure-esque doodles of all the characters, and it'll start with fully animated, and then the characters, you'll see the animated characters walking in live action, and then it'll transition to reveal the live action people in their place. And I really like this idea, but I thought it was interesting that they didn't cast actors based on how they look in the books. Roderick and Greg's dad both have quite long flowing hair in the movies, but in the book they're both like, well, Roderick has a buzz cut and the dad's balding, and then it's like, so you'll see like this balding stick figure, and then it'll transition to Steve Zahn with this lush hair. It's like, it doesn't look like him. Why would Greg draw his own dad that way? I think it wouldn't be as big of a deal if they didn't show them transitioning, but I think at least they give live action Greg, like the crown of his hair, they spike up a bit to kind of resemble the lone three hairs the illustration has. But I did think it was interesting, like, because you could either like adjust the drawing so that your version of the dad looks more like Steve Zahn, or shave his head. I don't know, but dumb IMDb trivia, Richard. So this is going to be an interesting round of dumb IMDb trivia, actually, because so for those that don't know, IMDb trivia is user submitted. So and for I recommend everyone goes and reads all the IMDb trivia for all the Wimpy Kid movies, because they're all written by presumably the 12-year-old boys that watch the Wimpy Kids that watch these movies. So I couldn't copy them all, but you were looking at the trivia earlier today, and you said one of these is just a shitty movie detail, and I was like, okay, and I think I found the one you were referring to. So let me know if this is the one you meant. So this is on the IMDb trivia page for Diary of a Wimpy Kid 2010. It says, when the camera eases in on Chirag getting bullied by the two kids while Greg is introducing him, there is a teacher in the background who does not seem to be stopping the bullies. This is accurate to real life.
Yeah, that was it. Because every joke on shitty movie details is just like, this is a reference to, this is accurate to. Like, so many of them are like, there's a scene 30 minutes into Diary of a Wimpy Kid where the narrator sits next to Tyler Durden on a plane. This is a reference to the fact I put in the wrong movie. I've seen the joke so many times. I've actually, like, I hate movie details, the subreddit. It's the most like annoying thing. But shitty movie details is like just the same joke over and over again. And like on TikTok as well, you get those like fake movie fact. Like, you get these movie facts TikToks that just go, did you know? Blah, blah, blah. And then quite a few of them will be, like, just joke ones, or they'll have, like, one joke one at the end. I've blocked so many accounts just because I hate seeing these videos and just the same joke every time. Because it's these things, they're the Funko Pops of, like, of jokes. Because everyone assumes I'd love them. And they go, here, Richard, look at this. And I'm like, yes, I've seen this before. I know. Amber Heard sucks. I know, like.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've unfollowed so many Johnny Depp Amber Heard TikToks, but they keep like how is, if someone who does not want to engage in this is still getting recommended Johnny Depp is such a savage laughing crying emoji videos, imagine the people that are engaged in it. Imagine what they're getting sent, you know.
Yeah.
Before, I know you really desperately wanted to segue, Richard, and I'm sorry to have pushed it back so far, but I'm going to have to keep pushing it back because we do have to ask a question that we ask, we keep forgetting to ask after we cover the first film in a franchise. Richard, and that question is franchise. This is a new segment of our show where we question, why is this a franchise? What about this do you think resonated with people? Is it just money? Is it just that's the sixth highest selling book series?
I definitely think that it's like you've got this super successful book series, and then even though the first movie wasn't like super well received. I think there's enough goodwill from this series that you at least get a second go.
Mm.
And it's
also,
like the other books are better. Like let's it feels like that kind of thing.
And also you've got a unique demographic that don't give a shit about what critical reception is.
Yeah.
You know. All right. What was your segue?
Well, so I just kind of wanted to talk about how Roderick rules.
Yeah.
And then cue the theme music for Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Roderick Rules.
Okay. Was that the segue?
Genuinely, I just wanted to talk about Roderick for a little bit. I figured it's like it suits better talking about it during the second movie. But so the second movie is about the main sort of thrust of it is the mum wants Roderick and Greg to get along better, and so she tries all these things, but they end up throwing a party while their parents are out of town. Or Roderick throws a party, locks Greg in the basement. Greg manages to get out of the basement, and they throw this party. The parents come home early, shock horror. They clean up the house, but don't do necessarily the best job of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, "We'll keep this from our parents," and they start to bond over the fact that they're hiding this from their parents, and then the whole thing unravels, whatever. But yeah, Roderick is really the best part of these films, and
I agree. Yeah,
the thing it's one of these things. I love seeing them be friends in this movie as well. Like it's fun to see him shit on his younger brother or whatever, but it is cool to just see them have like this kind of nice relationship. And then by the time you get to the third movie, they've got this kind of interesting working relationship, like a real
it is
realistic
the best relationship
kind of,
in the series.
Yeah, this realistic kind of like brothers one where it's not just like I'm actually actively trying to kill you all the time, and I'm not, and also not like I love my brother so much. It's like they do look out for each other, but yeah, it's like without having looked this up, I'm going to assume that there are a lot of 22, 23-year-old girls out there who Roderick was like their sexual awakening.
Very true. And one of the Letterboxd reviews I saw for Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Long Haul, said, how is any girl going to have their sexual awakening to this Roderick? Because he got recast and
yeah,
that one.
But it was like, I imagine you had a lot of young people, not necessarily girls, but a lot of young people not understanding why they liked Roderick so much, because he's a very attractive man, the actor, and it's just this like devil may care attitude, and he's a drummer in a band, and and this kind of movie as well. But I think probably in the next few years, I think you and I are going to start to see a lot of memes about people, growing up falling in love with Roderick.
Yeah. So, this film came out in 2011. So, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Roderick Rules. It's worth saying now that it's called Roderick Rules because after they have the party, someone has graffitied Roderick Rules on the door, so they need to replace the door. And it's a great
title bomb.
Yeah, it is. I loved it. And they replaced the door with one from the basement, but that one doesn't have a lock, and that, the lie gets deeper and deeper, and the bond gets stronger and stronger. This film was directed by David Bowers, and what do you think it has on Rotten Tomatoes?
70.
It's 47. It's the worst rated of the first three,
I should say. My favourite.
Yeah, no, it is. It's my favorite as well. I think, as you said, what I loved about it was that I think a story of brotherly love is a lot more interesting.
This is our Frozen.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't even have a brother.
But it's interesting. It's more interesting to me than something like the Rowley dynamic. And
we go on a road trip.
Each of the four films, I do think they seem to prioritize a different relationship to Greg, like a different character's relationship to Greg. So the first is Greg and Rowley, the second is Greg and Roderick. I'd say the third, his dad is a lot more prominent. Dad, yeah. I mean, the fourth is sort of his mum, but not as explicitly as the other three.
It's more just like, look how much of a bitch his mum is.
I think this is better than the first film because Greg's assholery is played down, but obviously Rotten Tomatoes disagrees. The general consensus on Rotten Tomatoes for this film gives us this glowing review. Moderately witty and acceptably acted, Diary of a Wimpy Kid 2 isn't much worse than the first installment.
Yeah.
These are miserable. The reason I liked it more, other than just the dynamic being more interesting to me, I just thought there's a lot more, like, dare I say, poetry in the film. Like, there's things that, like, get set up and paid off at the end. The characters all have different goals which are achieved in a way they didn't expect. It's very exciting. They want to go viral, and then at the end, Greg's mum goes viral, and Greg doesn't want to do Rowley's magic show because he thinks it's social suicide, but he does it so that their mum will let, as like a bargain, so that their mum will let Roderick back in his band to play at the talent show. Like there's stakes, there's emotional investment. I liked as well that the diary itself is used in the film when Roderick steals it, and it leads to this crazy scene where they're at a retirement home, and Roderick, who's pissed off at Greg, steals the diary, the titular diary, and is threatening to show it to Greg's crush, Holly, who's in the building. And so you get
she's
Greg,
not one of the retirees.
No, sorry, yeah. You get Greg, who the actor at the
Wimpy
time, the Wimpy Kid, is probably one of the most vulnerable ages to be seen in Only Your Underwear, scampering around a retirement home. He gets bear hugged by a bunch of elderly women. Wild scenes, this movie. Crazy stuff. Like there's literally like a, you're in your underwear, camera pans down to a 13-year-old's dick. Like, like it's stuff that, like, where it really, like, skirts the line, and I feel like there's been maybe a slightly less publicized equivalent to, like, a Me Too movement that's happened since this film about, like, the treatment of underage, particularly male actors in this kind of thing, and how, like, the lack of clothing you end up seeing these children in becomes almost a staple of their performances. And you watch, like, something like Drake and Josh or whatever, and it's like, I don't feel comfortable looking at this. But that's for a different reason, for Drake and Josh in particular. What was there anything else that you really liked or anything you didn't like about Roderick Rules?
No.
That's it. I've got some dumb IMDb trivia, 2 pieces of dumb IMDb trivia for this film. It says, in the book, and maybe I should read these books because there's a lot of information I'm missing. In the book, the message on the door reads, "Hi, Roderick," but here it is Roderick Rules. Changed to Roderick Rules in the movie, which begs the question, why is the book called Roderick Rules if Roderick Rules isn't what's written on the door? What's going on? Why is it called Roderick Rules? And the next piece of dumb IMDb trivia I have for Roderick Rules is Meryl Streep, Eva Green were both considered for the role of Ingrid. Now, first of all, no, they weren't. Second of all, who's Ingrid, Richard? Who's the character of Ingrid in this movie? Do you know?
Tell you.
I had to look it up. She appears in a fake horror movie in the movie called The Foot. And she's like a final girl in this movie called The Foot. And apparently Meryl Streep or Eva Green were considered for that bit part in this $70 million movie. With no one else even close to as famous as them in it, except for maybe Steve Zahn.
Your favourite actor.
My favourite actor. Diary of a Wimpy Kid continued the next year, Richard. Well, I should say, actually, this one... So, Roderick Rules was based on the second book in the series and was rushed into production after the first film proved it could make a profit. I'm assuming because they knew the kids weren't going to stay young forever, and soon it won't be as cute to see them running around in their underwear. So similarly, the third film, Diary of a Wimpy Kid Dog Days, was also rushed into production. Came out in 2012, also directed by David Bowers. What do you think that this has on Rotten Tomatoes?
100.
Says 52%, which is the highest of the first 3 films. Oh no, the first one's 54. All right, never mind. What's it about?
This one is about, it's school holidays. What is it? The summer holidays?
Summer vacation.
Summer vacation. You guys call it. We call that Christmas vacation.
Well, Christmas holidays. We don't really say vacation.
Yeah. So This one's really about the straining relationship between Greg and Steve Zahn, playing himself in this film.
Frank Heffley.
Yeah, so he's worried that that if he doesn't behave over the summer holidays, he's going to be sent to Spag Union, which is a military school. And this is something I want to ask our American listeners: is military school, getting shipped off to military school, is that like a legitimate thing that happened, and is that like a legitimate threat that would be held over your heads? Because it's one of these, I haven't thought about it in over a decade watching this film, but it feels like it was something that popped up a lot in these like American, if I fail midterms, I'm going to be shipped off to military school.
If I don't have my hall pass,
I might have to do
things.
Sunday school.
Sunday school's not American. You mean summer school?
No, I meant Sunday school.
Okay. This feels like the most Frankensteinian of the first three.
Yeah, so because it's like, so the first one is,
as in it's
like,
a bunch of different stories stuck together. It's not like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Yeah, the first one's like the cheese touch one, the first day of school one. The second one is the party one, the Roderick one. This one is simultaneously the military school one, the relationship with the dad one, and the country club one, but it's called Dog Days because a very minor part of the film they get a dog.
Yeah, it's also the summer camp one because the like Cub Scouts one because they go camping, and the last act of the film, a plot point which could sustain a whole film, is put in the last 10 or so minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
So interestingly, one of the reasons I think for this one feeling so like stitched together is that it's actually based on the third and fourth book of the series. The fourth book is Dog Days, which it took its title from. The third book is called The Last Straw, which call it The Last Straw. Why is this one called Dog Days? The whole climax is based around a last straw situation. If I screw up one more time, I'm going to get sent to Spag Union. There's a whole plot in this one as well with Greg's crush. She starts writing her number in his yearbook, but then gets distracted, and then he finds her at Rowley's country club.
She sees his dick.
Well, we'll get to that. What did you think
and then she's the younger sister of Roderick's crush.
Yeah, and he wants to be the live band at her Sweet 16.
Well, yeah, he just wants to get with her, but then Greg manages to get Roderick a gig being the live band at her Sweet 16, and I was like, that was a cool moment. That was like a nice thing that he was willing to do that for his brother, and then he ran off to excitedly tell him, and Roderick gives him a hug. It's very cute.
Yeah. So what did you think of Diary of a Wimpy Kid Dog Days? Days. Those really were the dog days, Richard. They really were.
The dog days are
God,
over,
how we laughed.
as Florence and the Machine would say.
It is now, yeah.
Yeah, because I've watched 2 more movies since then.
Absolutely.
But I probably put this on par with the second one. I liked it better than the first. But the Frankensteinian nature of it, or more relevant to this podcast, the space jammian nature of it, it did distract me while watching it, because I was like, which one is this?
Sure.
And then it insists it's the dog one, but that's the smallest part of it.
I think for something to be space jammian, these things have to happen simultaneously. Diary of a Wimpy Kid Dog Days is like episodic, more episodic than the last ones.
We're like Frankenstein.
Yeah, like Frankenstein is.
It's like, is it the Angry Villagers book? Is it the Bringing a Dead Guy Back to Life book? Like
each of the body parts that have been stitched together, I consider a different episode on Frankenstein's body. Sorry, Frankenstein's monster's body. None of these movies are bad. I rated all of them 3 stars except for the last one. But midway through this one, I found myself just kind of sad that I wasn't loving these. Yeah. Like, again, if I was a few years younger, I feel like these would have been incredibly
very
to me.
Asian movies.
They're very Asian. And like, we've talked about this before. And this is relevant. I'm not saying this to show anyone, so I'm not bragging. But for my broadcasting school final project, like, I made a sitcom pilot that was, to my chagrin upon watching these movies, a very similar plot to, like, as the kid was a little bit older. He had just started high school, so he was 13, not 11 as Greg is. But there was narration, there was life lessons.
There was a handsome Roderick character who I'm sure gave people their sexual awakenings.
Yep, played by none other than Richard Martin of Earbud 2. And I guess, like, all of that made, when it started, when the first film started, I was like, kind of like, oh, damn, like, my idea that I've had in my back pocket's already been done, and it's the best-selling novel.
My first day of school, coming of age story. Someone already thought of that.
But then I just grew to resent the first one so much that I stopped feeling bad about it. But this one, again, it's so episodic that it's like this. It feels like it's got like a season-long story arc that's supplemented in different episodes. Like, you can have a Cub Scouts camp episode with the overarching story going through it. It feels strange to see that in a movie, you know?
Yeah. And then you could get a dog in, like, episode 9 of season 1, and then you don't see the dog again till episode 13 because it was actually, like, written as the 12th episode of the season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Greg goes topless in the first film when they're playing football or some shit, or it's like dodgeball or some shit.
Football or some shit. It's like some stupid shit. Who gives a fuck?
He goes pantsless in the second film when he's running after his diary through the retirement home. So it only stands to reason, Richard, that this child
be fully
actor...
clothed.
No, the opposite, actually. He should go full naked in the third. He loses his swimming trunks in the country club pool and is then approached in the pool by his crush, where he presumably gets a mad boner. The film does not go into this itself, but I did think it was interesting that he sort of just hangs out in the pool for hours and prunes up because he can't get out to get any trunks. But like, people are swimming. People are going under the water. You can see
There's
under
a
the
shot
water.
of Paddy, who's a character in these films, like puts on goggles and goes under the water, and then nothing comes of it.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to then come up screaming like, Greg's got his willy out!
I know you have a fat boner, Greg Heffley. So, yeah. What do we think about this? Do we think this franchise has too many naked 12-year-olds or however? He's actually got a very deep voice in this, so presumably
puberty hit him like a fucking freight train between 2 and 3, which is so good.
A more vulnerable state to be seen naked, and I'm sure his body's going through a number of changes at this time. The best joke in this film, I thought, was Greg goes away for holiday with Rowley and Rowley's parents, and they play a board game, which is essentially you spin a spinner, and the person it points to, you have to tell them something that you love about them, which is already like a great Rowley, you know, because Rowley's such a dweeb. And Rowley gets his mum, and he's like, I love this and this. And then Rowley's mum gets Rowley, and then Greg gets Rowley's dad. And I was like, what a brilliant joke. Yeah. What a brilliant joke. Like, it's weird enough that he's playing it, but then he gets this character he has not even spoken 2 words to.
Who hates him.
And he's just like, yeah, and he hates him. And he's like, I love that you have a moustache. I thought that was great. And I also thought that the loaded diaper gig at Heather's Sweet 16, I thought was actually genuinely great, and I think he did. I think Roderick did a good job. He sings like sort of a heavy metal version of Justin Bieber's "Baby" to Heather, and like chaos ensues, and he knocks over the ice sculpture. But like in the beginning of the performance, I was like, this is up to, like, if a 16-year-old did this at a party, like, this would be acceptable. This is fun. This is cool. Do you think that Holly actually liked Greg? Because until she holds his hand in the final moments of the film, I thought she was interested in Rowley because
I thought we were going to get that.
Yeah,
reveal.
She writes "You're so cute" in Rowley's yearbook and all sorts of things.
Well, she was giving Greg her phone number.
Yeah, but
which
she also wrote like "You're such a good friend" as well.
That's
which,
right,
as Roderick states, that is the kiss of death on any possible romantic.
The
stuff.
death knell.
The death knell. Very good. So at the time, this was considered to be the final film in the series. There were no plans for a fourth film. Zachary Gordon, the guy who plays Greg, was quoted as saying, "Dog Days will most likely be the last movie. The main problem is the cast is getting older. You can't stop it. There's no way to temporarily stop us from changing and growing up." That's the problem, because the characters are supposed to be timeless. I just always love it when, like, someone who's probably too young to say anything that wise just says, yeah, time...
Time makes fools of us all.
It truly does. Got some dumb IMDb trivia for this movie as well. A sequel was in the works. Baby. A sequel was in the works, but cancelled when the protagonist underwent a major growth spurt suddenly. Which feels like a weird way to say.
It's not called Diary of a Tall Kid. Save that for Tall Girl on streaming on Netflix, starring Steve Zahn as her father.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? And finally, dumb IMDb trivia, Greg Heffley does a couple of things Mr. Bean did, such as being scared to go off the high dive with a younger person next in line. They both go off and lose their trousers. Also, they go through 100 possibilities of a phone number.
Wow.
I just love the sentence, Greg Heffley does a couple of the things Mr. Bean did.
Yeah.
It's just a stupid way to put it.
Did you know that there's Ron Atkinson has a new, Man versus Bee?
Yeah. It looks like it should be a movie, but it's a TV series.
Yeah. Very weird. Netflix.
Yeah. Alrighty. So, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Long Haul, came out. So the first one, 2010, 2011, 2012. This one came out in 2017. And when I saw that on Disney Plus, I was like, God, Greg must be super old now, because I did not know what I was about to see. And this was also directed by David Bowers, so he directed the last three. And what do you think this has on Rotten Tomatoes?
15.
It's 18, which is like, well, whatever. The connection, this is obviously like a rating that's reflected by the upset of change. So this one is mainly based on the 9th book in the series, The Long Haul, but it also greedily adapts elements from books 7, 8, and 10 as well, which are called The Third Wheel, Hard Luck, and Old School, respectively. What is this movie about, and what's the general deal with it?
They go on a road trip. The Heffleys are hitting the road, and things are not gonna go well. They win a pig. The pig does a big fart and poop. Greg listens to a bearded man poop, and you hear the poop.
You hear the poop. It's gross.
It's gross.
It's a gross scene.
Yeah. And what else? They fucking... just all this shit happens, and but their mum Alicia Silverstone doesn't want them to have their phones because screens are the devil, and Greg goes viral as Mr. Diaper Hands, and that is not cool, and so he wants to be cool, and so he wants to go to his that's how Digby do it.
Mac Digby is a YouTuber, a gaming YouTuber that Greg is a fan of, and the road trip they're going on is to see their 90-year-old Meemaw, who, when you see her, she is not anywhere close to 90, but
she's like in her 30s.
Yeah. But he wants to go because this VidCon is near her house where Mac Digby will be, and he wants to go there to clear his name so that everyone will stop calling him Diaper Hands, because he got his hand stuck to a diaper in a ball pit and it got filmed and went viral. He thinks that if he can be in a video with Mac Digby, it'll revive his reputation. And by the way, Mac Digby, he's like this PewDiePie Markiplier kind of amalgamation. What incredible casting this guy is. I had to look up if he was a real YouTuber, because I was like, this seems too smart.
This is just some fat idiot.
But no, he's just invented for the movie. He just looks the part. He's got like fluorescent pink hair, but I don't know, I was really impressed with the casting of that character.
He looks like he smells.
So, as we've indicated, the entire cast has been recast and, in fact, aged down as well. They've been reset to the ages they were in the first film. Alicia Silverstone soaks up what I assume is the Steve Zahn budget of the previous films, and she replaces Rachel Harris as Greg's mom. But Greg's dad is played by Tom Everett Scott, who is making his first appearance on film franchise Fortnights where he's not playing a dog of some kind, because we have previously seen him where he played Buddy himself in Ear Buddies and Snow Buddies, as well as Santa Paws in The Search for Santa Paws. He also played Charlie in Pup Star, and he also played the werewolf in An American Werewolf in Paris. So this is his only non-dog related role, and they did get a dog in another movie, so even that's up for debate.
It's up for debate whether or not this is a dog related role.
It is.
Yeah, so I gave this like 2.5 stars or something like that. And then I was just thinking about it as I was getting ready. I was pulling up the Wikipedia page for the film series. And I was like, this film was bad.
Okay. You clearly disliked it a lot more than I did then. I thought it was...
I don't know. I've seen this film before. I've seen this exact film before. This is Vacation.
Are we there yet?
The Ed Helms film.
Yeah.
But I know it's a remake, but it's
no, you were meaning the Ed Helms one.
I meant the Ed Helms one. It's very similar to the Ed Helms one. There's a scene where they get covered in what is or looks like feces. There's 3 separate scenes in this film where they get covered in what is or looks like semen. The first time it's some kind of lotion that's on screen so briefly.
It may as well just be semen.
Unable to determine what it is, and then they get pooped on by when a bunch of seagulls enter the car, and what was a pretty funny scene, and then that looks like semen, and then a tub of cinnamon rolls fucking combusts in the car, exploding everywhere, and covering them all, and it glazes them. It glazes the shit out of them, and it looks like semen. And the fact that they leave it on them for so long in the movie, and it's stuck in Alicia Silverstone's hair.
Like, relatively, back in her heyday, she was somewhat of a sex icon. So, the connotations and the correlations are there. I bet, and I'm almost sure, looking at reviews and even hearing what you're saying, I guess that there's like a massive contingent out there of fans who just reject the new cast.
Yeah, hashtag not my Roderick.
Not my Roderick, yeah. I found it mildly upsetting at first, but then I remembered I didn't really like the old cast that much. And I think this one has just as many highs and lows as the others. I did think what I initially thought, clicking play on Disney Plus and seeing the thumbnail, was that Manny would be the main character, who's their little brother. He's only 3, and as he says in the first film, who, you could age him up to be whatever age you want him to be now. And I thought that would be the way to continue it on. Because as it stands, it is kind of a soft reboot / continuation. All of the framing is the same. Like it has the same style opening sequence. The title always appears the same. So it's not like this is like a foundational reboot. It's clearly they were going for something.
It's just a recast, yeah.
Yeah. But then also they're a lot younger, so I don't know when it's set, but it's clearly set in modern day because they talk about their devices a lot.
There are memes.
Yeah, there's memes. I thought this was the dirtiest one. There's a joke in it where
they get covered in mud.
and semen. Where he's showing new Roderick the VidCon that he wants to go, and he shows him like a scantily clad dressed woman in cosplay.
This was the best joke in the film.
and he goes, and Roderick goes, "Are those real?" And Greg goes, "I don't even know. Like everybody dresses up in all sorts of crazy costumes, and the joke."
He says most of them make their armor out of foam or their weapons out of foam or something like that.
The joke being Roderick's talking about tits, and Greg Heffley has never seen a tit.
Yeah, I doubt Roderick has either. This Roderick? No way.
I thought this was also the most viscerally gross because there's a scene where they're at this carnival and they're in that spinny thing, and there's just this real slow motion shot of Roderick vomiting directly toward the camera.
And then it goes into a beardo's face.
Beardo, who's a character that's stalking them.
Yeah, and because when we first meet Beardo, they go to this hotel, this really disgusting hotel, and they go to jump in the pool, but there's no pool, and they look over at like the hot tub, and they were like, well, at least they're having fun, and I legit thought they were having an orgy. And so it's like there's 3 shots of them in the hot tub. So it's like this family. So you've got mum, dad, and 2 or 3
It's just because there's a lot of skin and they don't
there's a lot of
dwell
skin.
on
And,
the
so,
shot.
and they're like flipping over each other, like one of the daughters is like climbing on the dad. And I legit was like, oh my god, like, because it was kind of in the background.
Christ.
And I was like, are they Jesus? Like, yeah, they're not going to show close up of that. And then they showed another shot of it very quickly, and I was like, is that children in the orgy? And then another shot again that went for longer, and I was like, this is a family, and they're not having an orgy.
No. Crucially, they're not having an orgy. And the dad's got a beard, and Roderick's like, look at those weirdos. And Greg says, more like Beardo. And then Roderick goes, great joke. And I was like, yeah, I'm on Roderick's side with this one. It's a terrible joke. Anyway, he pisses off Beardo, and Beardo stalks them for the whole road trip.
Yeah.
The cold open of this film is Greg getting the diaper stuck to his hand. And it made me reflect on all the embarrassing shit that happens to this guy, this wimpy kid. And I feel like I briefly saw a flash of an alternate universe where these movies are a lot better, or maybe it's a TV show and it existed as like a preteen's answer to Curb Your Enthusiasm, like he's constantly finding himself in just these like grotesquely embarrassing situations. And then I realized that show exists, Richard, and it's called Malcolm in the Middle, and these movies are Malcolm in the Middle without the edge.
Yeah.
That's what they are. They're so similar to Malcolm in the Middle, but Malcolm in the Middle is so much better than these.
Did you also pick up on the that Chris Coppola, who plays Mr. Beardo? This isn't the first time we've seen him.
Where else have we seen him?
He's in Spider-Man, an uncredited role as Kyle. He's also in the Friday the 13th remake as the gas station attendant. He's also Comet in Santa Buddies, Gus in The Search for Santa Paws, Dancer, the voice of Dancer in Santa Paws 2, The Santa Pups. He's Mr. Bull in Super Buddies. He's Tune in Pupstar. He's Rocky in Pupstar Better Together.
I guess it's not that surprising because these are all from like a very specific pocket of Disney. Although these weren't Disney at the time, actually.
Yeah. He's also in Russell Madness and Monkey Up, which feel like very, very kind of similar films to that ilk.
Interesting.
Both have John Ratzenberger in them.
I'm glad you found that. I think this film also, interestingly, takes place over the shortest period of time out of any of the movies. So the first film is a school year. The second film is sort of like...
It's a school year.
It's a school year. It's an indeterminate amount of... like I felt like the second one took place over a couple of months at least. The third one is summer break, summer vacation. So there's 3 months. And this one's like 2 days. So I thought it was interesting that they didn't even keep to... I don't know, if your first one's set over a year, I almost feel like all of your all your series films should be set
Well, it's
over.
not called Year of a Wimpy Kid.
No, that's true. And maybe I'm just preparing for what we've got coming in the next fortnight. There is a scene in Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Long Haul, where Greg really needs to pee, but they can't pull over. So he gets a empty bottle out of in the car and starts peeing it, and he goes, oh, and he looks gleeful peeing into this bottle, and his mum is staring at him in the eyes, and she's like, what are you doing? And how did you messaged me about this, how did you put it?
Do you want me to find my exact words? Because like he literally just like he's sitting there and you could see him flop his dick out of his pants.
Yeah.
And yeah, he says I like how Greg maintains eye contact with his mum while he gets his dick out and has an orgasmic piss.
Yeah, he has an orgasmic piss. And this made me realize, like, in the first one, there's a scene where he pisses all over Roderick by accident and stuff like that. Is Greg Heffley the youngest character in all of cinema to be constantly getting his dick out in front of people? Like, think about it. Like, think about it. Like, not even just like down to his underwear. Like, he pisses
Yeah.
on, he pisses on Roderick in the first one.
Yeah.
He dives naked into the pool in the third one, and he just flaps his fucking.
Yeah.
Diary of a registered sex offender. That's what the future holds for Greg Heffley.
Well, there goes my continue the franchise.
when they sneak off to VidCon, the mum calls the police and she's like, I'd like to report missing persons, because she doesn't know where she's gone. And then she sees them being interviewed on the news where they're like, our mum has no idea we're here. And she says, I'd like to report a double murder, which is a crazy thing to tell
say
the cops.
to a 911 operator. Like, they don't fucking take that shit lightly.
No, I know, exactly. It's not worth the joke, Alicia
Yeah.
Silverstone. The last note I had here was that the parents put on "Wannabe" by the Spice Girls in the car,
There goes
to
most
listen
of the
to.
film's budget. There goes their Roderick casting budget.
And this is treated like some kind of affront to music by the kids. They're like, "Oh my god, old people music, no!" And it's like, it's Spice Girls. Like, I feel like the song never left the zeitgeist, so you can't be like it's some obscure song. I don't know. It just felt like a disingenuous attempt at that story beat. The long haul wasn't always the plan for a fourth film, and before it was greenlit in that sort of 5-year gap, Jeff Kinney expressed interest in adapting the sixth book, Cabin Fever, into a movie or TV special, and he wanted it to be animated.
They'll never make an animated Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie.
that never happened, but it did eventuate into Diary of a Wimpy Kid in 2021. This was directed by Swinton Scott, whose previous directing credits include 7 episodes of The Simpsons, including And Maggie Makes 3 and The PTA Disbands, as well
as the finger thing means the taxes.
as well as a season 10 episode I watched on the plane to London recently called Mayored to the Mob. He also directed episodes of Family Guy, Angry Beavers, and Futurama, including Jurassic Park. So this is the director of potentially the most famous episode of Futurama is the director of Diary of a Wimpy Kid 2021. What do you think it has on Rotten Tomatoes?
1,000.
It's got 73%, so by quite a wide margin, it's the highest rated. In 2018, the CEO of 20th Century Fox, Stacey Snider, announced that a fully animated television series based on Diary of a Wimpy Kid was in development. After the acquisition of 21st Century Fox by Disney, the project was confirmed to still be in development for their upcoming Disney Plus, but by December 2020, the project was confirmed to have been redeveloped as an animated film. What's it about? It's the same plot as the first one.
It's the same thing. No Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yeah, stuff is removed, but that's it. What did you think of this movie?
The thing that I found most interesting about this is that it kind of shows how faithful the original film must be. Because presumably this is, lifted directly from the page. And there's so many lines of dialogue that are in this one and the original, and they must be straight from the book. That's kind of my most... my biggest observation. But I do as well, regarding the animation style, I know you had quite a few issues with it. I think it's good enough to sustain an hour, which is how long this film is. I don't think it's good enough to sustain 90 minutes, but I kind of liked it. It's like an interesting choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I thought it was... similar to what you said, I thought it was interesting to see the first film quite comfortably condensed into an hour. It goes to show, the first one probably didn't need to be as long as it was. But yeah, man, that visual style, I don't think it works at all in CGI, nor can it sustain itself. Kinney chose to use the CGI in spite of the book's hand-drawn style, because he wanted the animation to feel like the books had come to life. And so if you've seen any art from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, it's that style, but 3D animated and coloured. And I think it really highlights how simple the art style is, and how it belongs in doodle form, mainly because Greg only has 3 hairs in the doodle, which in the doodle I think is supposed to represent like he's got like a frizzy, messy kind of unkempt hair kind of thing going on. I don't think from the information given to us in the doodle, I don't think he only has 3 hairs. I think it's indicating more. But in this, it's just a bald kid with 3 hairs coming out of his head. And I thought, I don't know, I just didn't think it was nice to look at, and it's clear like all the original characters they animated, they gave them all proper hair. Like the story elements, they changed around a little bit, and I thought they removed some of Rowley's innocence in what felt like an attempt to make Greg more likable, but I think this came at the expense of the story. Like the situation in which Greg was like takes the Zooey Mama idea feels a lot more. It's not like mean spirited, but it's Rowley taking something for himself, which feels very not like in his character, and I didn't really like that, and I think that the innocence of Rowley is lost there. But other than that, there's not too much else to say about it. It's just the first film again. There's the cheese touch again.
I feel like we haven't had this in a while where it's like we're covering essentially the same film. Like just a straight remake and a pretty close remake.
Well, it's a re-adaptation, I guess. Rowley does eat the cheese again at the end of this, and the movie ends with one of the most bizarre, like it ends with this piece of narration that's supposed to be like encouraging, but I just thought it was threatening. Where
he makes a threat.
Greg says something along the lines of he basically
it's
says,
like, and I never did tell anyone that Rowley ate the cheese, but if he fucking steps out of line for even one goddamn second, I'm going to tell the whole fucking school.
He essentially says that, but he says it like it's like a happy ending. Very strange. Any other thoughts of this battle I've got to say on this very small film? Do you have any other thoughts on it?
No.
I guess it's like the Halloween sequence in the first film feels like it happens like halfway through, and in this it's like the second thing that happens. So like it's interesting to see what's cut out. Like Chirag Gupta's gone, Shelley or whatever, and Paddy, is gone. Yeah. Like they really cut down all the characters. I don't know. I didn't like it, but apparently everyone else did.
Chirag is in it though.
Is he?
Yeah. Yeah, he's Rowley gets a new best friend when they split up, and it's Chirag.
Oh, okay. I missed that. I was waiting for him to do the cheese touch monologue again. Well, Richard, this brings us to continue the franchise, which is the last, one of the last segments, the last fun segment on the show, where we talk in terms of future films or when we pitch our own sequels. So an animated version of Roderick Rules is set for release this year on Disney Plus, with Jeff Kinney stating that he intends to adapt all the books into these animated features for Disney Plus, which would mean we're really covering this franchise on the ground floor, because the 17th book is set to come out this year. And also it's
Mama!
It's probably worth noting that an animated short film, Diary of a Wimpy Kid Class Clown, was released after the Dog Days film, featuring all the voices of the original 3 films. So we could watch that maybe one day. But for full transparency, and because we talk about titles a lot on this podcast, here are all the book titles.
Do you want me to give you a 1-word review of each one?
Yeah.
I'll give you a 3-word review of each one.
Okay. Number 1, Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Zooey Mama.
Okay. Roderick Rules.
Zooey Mama.
The Last Straw.
Zooey Mama.
Dog Days.
Zooey Mama.
The Ugly Truth.
Not too bad.
Cabin Fever.
Zooey Mama.
The Third Wheel.
Zooey Mama.
Hard Luck.
Zooey Mama.
The Long Haul.
A Zooey Mama.
So dry. Old School.
Zooey Mama.
All right, I'm going to give you the last 7 in one go. How does that sound?
Okay, and then I'm going to say Zooey Mama 7 times.
Okay. Double Down, The Getaway, The Meltdown, Wrecking Ball, The Deep End, Big Shot, and the one coming out this year. It's called Diaper Overload, but it's spelled with umlauts over the O's, much like in Loaded Diaper, the band in the movies is spelled.
Zooey Mama, Zooey Mama, Zooey Mama, Zooey Mama, Zooey Mama, Zooey Mama, Zooey Mama.
Thank you. My favourite title, though, in the wider Wimpy Kids series would go to one of the book's spin-offs, which is written from Rowley's perspective, and it's titled Diary of an Awesome Friendly Kid. Which I think is so funny, like speaks to like Rowley's self-positivity as well as like anything else. It is followed by 2 sequels called Rowley Jefferson's Awesome Friendly Adventure and Rowley Jefferson's Awesome Friendly Spooky Stories. I really like Rowley. I think Rowley and Roderick are the best parts.
Yeah, absolutely.
My serious pitch for a continue the franchise outside of just turning this into the half-hour sitcom that it so clearly is begging to be, I think, would be either to stick to the live-action sequels and just recast every few years. People get over it. It can just be a tradition. It could be a James Bondian kind of like time stand.
Which 11-year-old actor are they going to get?
Yeah, oh my god. Or if they're going to do animated, I think the style would better suit digital shorts or even, haven't pitched this in a while, a point-and-click video game, if those are still around. I could see things like, clicking around a classroom or using what you've learnt or whatever. So, Richard, what's your continue the franchise?
Well, I was going to pitch you Diary of a Pathetic Man. Which would either be about a grown-up Greg Heffley or about Steve Zahn. But I would like to see a film following Roderick as he goes off to college or as he's finishing high school and is having to pursue his dreams of being in a rock band. It's essentially like I kind of want to see like a Spinal Tap but with Loaded Diaper. This is Loaded Diaper.
Cool.
Yeah, like they really I just want to see just Roderick, give him his own movie, get Devin Bostwick or whatever his name is back. Bostic.
Nice. I think that would go down very well with a lot of
the ladies.
Females. The ladies. Ooh, the ladies.
He's gonna be in Oppenheimer.
That's right. I did hear about that. Along with Josh Peck is also an Oppenheimer.
Everyone's in bloody Oppenheimer.
That's true.
I'm starting to think I might be in bloody Oppenheimer.
Steve Zahn is moments away from getting the call to be an Oppenheimer.
So
now we're going to move on to a segment that gets shorter and shorter every time we do it, called Rank That Franchise, where we rank the franchise with all the other franchises we've watched. This is the 154th franchise we've watched. What are you thinking? Is it better or worse than Diary of a Mad Black Woman?
Let's put it next to it.
No, I think it's much better. What are you talking about? Do you think this is above the Nymphomaniac Constant?
No.
You think it's worse?
Maybe just.
If it's worse, it's just worse.
Yeah. I just found
it doesn't
a fun bit of Oppenheimer trivia while I was looking. So Josh Peck, as you mentioned, is in it. He's playing a guy called Kenneth Bainbridge. So like the whole Manhattan Project, the nuclear test, and Oppenheimer uttered his famous "Now I am become death, destroyer of worlds." Do you know what Josh Peck's character said to him immediately after that?
What?
He said, "Now we are all sons of bitches." So funny. I hope that's in the movie.
I've placed Diary of a Wimpy Kid at 76 between Twilight and Rambo First Blood.
Love it.
Does that sound good?
Sounds
right.
great.
So it is the 76th best franchise we've ever watched. And Richard, the next franchise we're going to do has been decided by our Patreon. Do you want to pull up the Patreon?
Yeah, I haven't followed this at all.
I have. I know what it is.
Like, people have been talking about it all week, and I just have not paid attention. The Patreon requires 2-factor authentication, and it texts you the code. Right. And so when I went to check at like 2 a.m. and you uncharacteristically were asleep at 2 a.m. and maybe it wasn't that late, but like 12:30 or 1. And It
So
texted you the
sorry.
code,
This is
and then I
fear
just
of going to bed early.
I just couldn't. I just couldn't check, and then I thought, you know what? I'm just not going to look. So
I'm sorry. Shall I look then?
yeah.
Alrighty. Well, so for those who are new to the podcast, every second franchise we do is decided by the people over at patreon.com/cultpopture, where if you donate only $1 a month, you can actually suggest and vote on franchises, every second franchise we cover. And it's always really heated, and it's always really fun, and it's really cool to see how much people care about the show. There will be screeds of text in the Discord of people talking about what they think the next franchise will be. People have gone on year-long campaigns to get their franchise picked. It's very reminiscent of like when someone doesn't win president, so they come back in 4 years to try to do it again. Like,
we've got a few Bernie Sanders in our Discord.
Yeah. It's a real thing, and so this is the end of the franchise poll for our next franchise. But before I tell you what is won, I would just like to say that if you've enjoyed the show, please consider following Cult Popture on Twitter and Instagram. And as I said, you can join our Patreon if you want to donate some money. That's patreon.com/cultpopture, or you can join the Discord, which there is a link to in the show notes. And Richard, the winning franchise is one that there could not be maybe a worse time in history to be covering this particular franchise.
Give us our Pride Month franchise.
I'm baffled to see this win. I'm quite daunted by the prospect of it as well. I'm sure it'll probably bring in a lot of new listeners, but we're a podcast that would rather do the Jumanji series as opposed to the Star Wars series. Not that Star Wars is what won, thank God. No, the winner, and it's the most, I don't want to say the number, but it's got the most votes a franchise has gotten in a while.
Can you say the number and bleep it?
It's 18.
Okay. Well,
18 votes for the Harry Potter franchise. God, I knew this day was coming. Here it is. And I guess this is going to have to be a multi-week episode as well, so I imagine what it'll look like is we'll come back in 2 weeks, do the Harry Potter episode, and then the next week do a Fantastic Beasts episode. I don't think we'll need a fortnight to separate the two parts. No. Maybe we will.
We are also, though, the weird thing is that we are approaching this Friday coming is our 6-year anniversary of Film Franchise Fortnights. So I guess we'll work out. We may or may not do a Redux this year. You'll fucking find out when it happens.
Redo a franchise from the early days for those who don't know. We
will do a quiz at some point. We might do the quiz next week.
If we can
probably
figure it out in time.
Do a quiz next week. Yeah.
It should be fine. We just usually, I think, have a longer run into it, but it'll be fine.
Well, let's start launching it now.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to put it in the diary.
So, Harry Potter, a series which at one point I had no qualms with, but now in 2022, very complicated feelings for.
Now that you're woke.
Now that I'm woke, I've tried to erase. I always scroll past Harry Potter themed TikToks on my TikTok For You page because I don't want Harry Potter to be part of my life. But I tell you what, if there's anything the algorithm's going to pick up on, it's me watching all 8 to 11 movies over the next 3 weeks. So
Zooey
Mama, it's going to be a big blockbuster episode. It's probably going to be a pretty long episode because there's 8 movies. I do like that these are essentially the magical versions of Diary of a Wimpy Kid as well.
You've read all the books, right?
A long time ago, yeah.
I have. I've read 1.5 of the books. So
which 1.5?
1.5 of 2.
Wow. So, yes, Harry Potter, next franchise, Harry Potter, big deal. This should be... I hate how you can hear how unexcited I am to watch all the Harry Potter movies. If this was another blockbuster, when we got Indiana Jones, it was hell yeah, awesome. But this is
There's much less of those as well. I've got all the Harry Potter movies on Blu-ray, so...
Same.
It'd be fun to dust those off.
I don't own them personally, but I have them. So yeah, that'll be next week. And stay tuned, everybody,
Well,
for
next fortnight.
next fortnight. Stay tuned, everybody, for the post-credit scene after this music ends, and let us know. Contact us. Let us know how excited
Let us know
you
how
are
much
for
of a
Harry Potter.
wimp you are. What's
How much of a
what's
wimp
something
you are.
you put in your diary? What's something that you've never told anyone? Who do you have a crush on? Tell us. Write into us, cultpoptionmedia@gmail.com. Who do you have a crush on? We won't tell anyone.
Unless it's one of us, and then we'll tell
Then
each other.
we'll know, yeah. Well, we won't tell anyone. We'll just see it and we'll know.
So yeah, but then
But then I'm going to tell everyone that someone has a crush on me. I'll be so flattered. Someone
Just gotta get
just
TikTok
even if you're lying, just tell me you have a crush on me. I don't care.
I have a crush on you.
Well, not you.
Oh, okay. It's not good enough when I'm.
Well, you're only doing it because I said. There's a chance
That's the only reason anyone would do that.
No, but there's a chance if someone says it because of, like, if someone on the Discord or emails us or comments on Facebook or Instagram that they have a crush on me, there's a chance it's a coincidence. I know you're just saying that. But anyone else, it could be a coincidence.
Okay.
So that's my call out for this week. Tell me you have a crush on me, and I'll reply with a little X. Okay?
Okay.
That's my weirdly.
Will you tell me? Will I find out about this?
What?
Will I be privy to this information?
What? Well, we both know that you'll probably send me a screenshot. You'll probably see it before I do if they contact us on any official channel.
Right.
So you
True.
pass it on. And you AJ, this is also the task for you. You have to make it clear it's not you telling me you have a crush on me. This is from someone else. And then I will go find that message and I will reply with an X from...
I could just reply with an X for you if you
No, I'll do it from my personal account on whatever it's on.
What if it's a DM?
Then then I have to. If it's a DM, then it's
No,
it's
but
already
DM
my
to
personal
Cult
account.
Popture. How?
What?
Like,
Then
forget
I
it.
will. Then
All
I
right,
will open up
everybody
a
fucking
DM
tell
with that
Richard
person,
you have a crush on
and
him.
I will
It's
just
fine.
say X. Everyone tell me you have a crush on me. See you next time. When I'll read out all the DMs I got.
All right, welcome along to the post-credit scene, everybody. This is a segment.
Hashtag I have a crush on Richard.
Oh God, stop! This is a segment at the end of each episode where if you donate $5 or more over at patreon.com/cultpopture, you get to give us something to talk about, and this the post-credit scene. Richard, do you have it up?
Yes. Do
Can
you
you
mean
tell
the
us-
page or?
Someone's got a crush on himself. Tell us who it's from and what is it.
This is, do you have a favorite non-film franchise? Books, video games, or extended TV universes? I'm going to beat you to your one. Breaking Bad. Better Call Saul.
Who's this from?
This is from Joe Rundle. I was just so excited to beat you to your one that sorry Joe, you
Breaking
didn't get your
Bad.
little moment in the sun. Breaking Bad, Uncharted, Crash Bandicoot. These are mine.
Mhm. Yep, they're mine too.
Oddworld.
Last of Us.
Oddworld, I love Oddworld.
I don't know what is this. Does a TV show count as a franchise?
Well,
Does it
I
have
think
to be more than
Breaking Bad having an extended universe with Better Call Saul.
yeah. Okay, so I can't just be like this TV show I like.
Malcolm in the
'Cause then
Middle because it has multiple seasons.
Why are you making fun of me? I didn't even say that. I was just clarifying. Any more non-film franchise?
Yeah, books. Not really. There's like I do have like a handful of books I like, but there's no like franchise of books that I've really like read. But yeah, video games. You got Crash Bandicoot, Uncharted, Far Cry is one that I've called a guilty pleasure before, even though it's a very successful game franchise. But it's just one that I don't really like any other kind of games like Far Cry, but for some reason I just real like Far Cry.
Spyro.
Yeah, Spyro, sure, yeah, Crash Bandicoot, but the Naughty Dog Crash Bandicoot. If Naughty Dog counts as you know, we would normally say a studio doesn't count as a franchise, but Naughty Dog is like one of the only sort of, and Playdead Studios, they're like kind of a franchise that did Inside and Limbo. That
Yeah, sure.
like these ones that it's like I will, whatever you do next, I will consume it.
I feel like I watch a lot of YouTube video essays or speedrun documentaries on Mario. Like, I've got such an extensive knowledge of Mario lore now, and I've never really played a Mario game, and I wouldn't even call it. I just think I just like learning about this stuff.
I love learning.
That's the greatest franchise of all. Is just learning.
That's my brain.